Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new early Netflix movie review, and today we'll be discussing the new sci-fi drama by the name of Awake, which will be coming to Netflix on Wednesday, June 9th. Now, I got the chance to check it out early, courtesy of Netflix, and I'm really excited to let you all know what I thought about this new sci-fi drama, and if you all should give it a watch, all in this spoiler-free review. But before we break it down, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you all can get the alert for when I drop new content. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this review. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate all the support. And in those comments below, let me know if Awake was a film you were excited for, if it was on your radar. And of course, once you've seen this new film, let's discuss it in the comments. Your pros, your cons, your thoughts on the performances. Did you like the premise? Did it live up to the premise? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. So for me personally, I had heard about this film a couple months ago because I always like to do some research in regards to what's coming soon to Netflix. I read the synopsis. I was very intrigued. I'm a fan of Gina Rodriguez. I love me a good sci-fi film. So those are kind of the leading points to me checking this out without even watching the trailer, which, starting off with my positives, it's that premise, man. Again, I love sci-fi. I love exploring, like, okay, what would really happen if this happened in the real world? And for you all that do not know, I'm going to leave the trailer and the premise and the synopsis in the description, but briefly, let me read it right quick. After a global event wipes out humanity's ability to sleep, a troubled ex-soldier fights to save her family as society and her mind spiral into chaos. So, listen, when I was much younger, I have done the 24 hours, stay up 24 hours just for the hell of it, right? And it's something I probably can't do at my age now. And even nowadays, with, working an 18, 20-hour long day, by the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I'm, tripping out at some points, right? So it's just that idea of like, okay, what would happen if you physically could not be able to sleep? And the film at its best, which is mostly in the first half of this movie, it plays into that, right? It has this ticking time bomb or this catastrophe that takes over the world. It takes away your ability to sleep, but not only that, it wipes out all the electronics on Earth. So just, okay, no electronics to your disposal, not being able to sleep, what's going to happen? And I like how the film, again, within that first half and some in the second half, it plays into like the different stages of when you're not being able to sleep. You have, things like disorientation, you have hysteria, you have hallucinations, and knowing that you have this ticking time bomb in this film regarding, okay, after a couple days, after several hours, more particularly several days of not being able to sleep, that is not good for the human condition, and that is very fatal. So I like when the film played into those elements. We meet different characters who are definitely at stage 3, hallucinations, disorientation, and kind of getting very dark and sinister. I like when the film kind of explores those elements, and that was really the most intriguing element of this film, the premise and it playing out in those first 2 acts of the movie, which brings me into the performances. Now, a lot of these actors to me were brand new. A lot of these actors didn't live up to what I was hoping for in this film, but there are 2 performances, one being Gina Rodriguez, who plays Jill, who is the troubled ex-soldier in this situation, who's the mother of these 2 kids, and for the most part, I thought she was believable. I felt like she was a mom that wanted to do anything to protect her kids. We don't get as much backstory for the character other than a couple hints, and you see something at the beginning of the film that they really don't explore too much, but I like Gina Rodriguez. I love her in Sci-Fi. She was in one of my favorite sci-fi films in the last few years, in Annihilation, and for the most part I enjoyed her performance. But the MVP for me, man, is her daughter Matilda, who is played by the actress by the name of Ariana Greenblatt, who, when I was watching this movie, man, I didn't look it up because I wanted to figure it out, and I never did until after the fact. Where did I see her from? You guys probably don't recognize her, but she is a little girl that played Little Gamora in Avengers Infinity War, and I thought she was great. She was very critical to the movie. She was almost a MacGuffin of a sort. Without watching the trailer, I didn't know how important she was to the script, and I won't give it away here, obviously, but if you've seen the trailer, they show you how important she is to the story. But she was a great young actress. I believed her. I felt for her. She was funny. She was probably the only character that I did care for, which we'll talk about later, but I thought that she was great as the young actress who really kind of carried this film. And also, to just kind of transition to wrap it up my positives, without watching the trailer, there were a lot of WTF moments for me. I didn't realize that this film was rated R or MA. I didn't realize how surprisingly violent and dark it got at times, which, I love me a good, good amount of sci-fi, but also some thrilling, horrific elements in this film. And there's this one sequence that takes place later on in the film that's like a car sequence that really kind of lived up, again, to what happens when people don't get sleep and they're sleep deprived. They get a little crazy, and you see that later on in the film with one of my favorite moments in the movie, which is that car sequence, which was was shot really well, really uniquely shot. It was really entertaining, which also brings me to the third act of the movie, which I'll say it's batshit crazy in both a positive and a negative light. More particularly in a positive, I'm just like, what is going on? Again, hallucinations. You have people that think that an acorn is a grenade, and just seeing little things like that. It was really interesting. But again, I mentioned that it was both positive but also negative, which brings me into my negativities, my criticism with this film. It was very laughable at times. I say that because this is yet another example of a cool premise, a cool idea, a sci-fi film on Netflix that's just completely forgettable. I watched this movie last night and I really can't remember a lot of the middle of the film. It's a very forgettable type of movie, very boring at points, I'm not gonna lie, which, the ending of that film, which we'll get into a little bit later, but the premise, the first half was really intriguing, but unfortunately it does not live up to the premise to me. Once we meet these secondary characters, and most of these characters are generic and just so boring, and the supporting characters are literally throwaway characters, there is zero character development within this film, and there are some really bad dialogue moments. Like, these actors to me feel like they were improv in their lines just to kind of fill space, and I did not care for a majority of these characters. Mostly our main cast. I applaud Gina Rodriguez and Matilda and her daughter. I thought they were the strongest points of the film, but I think of Jill's mother-in-law, the son, Noah, and just various other amount of characters. Like, for example, the character they meet on the road when you guys see the film by the name of Dodge. It was just these characters that lacked charisma, and I just didn't care for them. They were just very bland, very generic, and just zero cares from me personally, which, again, going back to that premise, the film doesn't live up to it at all because, again, they're not able to sleep. They don't have electronics at their disposal. We don't get world building. We don't know how this is affecting the world. We don't know how it's affecting certain other elements of the U.S. government. It's a very, basic level of, I have a cool idea, but they don't flesh out that idea, right? We get the bare minimum of expanding on this idea. Again, you see moments of, okay, people aren't sleeping. They're going to probably steal things. They're going to probably get sleeping pills. They're going to probably think that people that may or may not be able to sleep are messiahs of a sort, and they have to be sacrificed. So it just barely scratches the surface on this element. And at the end of the day, it's just a very stereotypical sci-fi film where we have our characters that are in, a bad situation, and we have to watch them go from point A to point B. Very generic, very stereotypical, and just doesn't really offer much once you get done watching the movie, which brings me into some of the acting. I mentioned the poor dialogue, but don't let them being sleep deprived fool you. There are literally some terrible moments of acting in this film from a lot of the supporting characters, and there are just as even more worse stupid moments within this film. We're looking at scientists, supposedly scientists, the smartest people, available to help out the situation. This film had some really, really dumb moments, and I won't get into those moments, but it's a very stupid movie at times. So listen, before I give you all my overall thoughts and my score, make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments once you've seen the film, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Overall, when it comes to Awake, this is another example of yet another Netflix sci-fi film with a cool and interesting premise, but unfortunately goes absolutely nowhere. I'm going to give this film, Awake, a 2 out of 5. Listen, they should have named this film Sleep because I was bored for the majority of this film, and this is something I wouldn't recommend seeing. Whenever you get those movies that drop on a weekday, like a Wednesday, that pretty much maybe speaks to the quality of this film. It could have had a lot of potential. There is a good movie within this film somewhere, but unfortunately with the lack of charisma, flair from the direction, the dialogue, some terrible acting, cool premise, but doesn't live up to that premise. So again, 2 out of 5 for me. But let me know what you all thought of Awake once you've seen it. Your pros, your cons. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let's talk about it in the comments. As always, again, make sure to like, share, comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other future content. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe. We'll see you in the next video.